What is up, everyone? Welcome to this exciting new video. Hey folks, it's been a while. Yeah, the month of May was a little crazy. I was sick, I was busy working, I was busy also moving the last of my stuff out of my parents' house because they're also moving. It's been a bit hectic, and plus videos I've wanted to make during that month haven't worked out all that well, so hopefully this video actually turns out to be something good. So let's get started. Glad to be back. What are we going to start with? Well, I rearranged the apartment a little bit. I brought up my activity table out in front of the big window here and moved my bookshelves over to there. And of course, moved the printers around and all that stuff. By the way, an update to the last video, I did get that HP color printer working. So now I have a color laser printer. And I moved the Brother black and white printer over here. But that's not what we're here to talk about in this video. We're here to talk about this guy. You may remember this Quicksilver from the previous Grateful 42 video. Well, it indeed works. I did a trade with a fellow YouTuber, Kyle's Tech Channel, a couple weeks ago. I think it was in May. And you know, he and I made a deal with on one of those iBook G3s, and along with that deal, I got a bunch of these parts for these Quicksilvers, and one of those included some mounting hardware that had a hard drive already attached to it. So I just stuck that right in there and reinstalled OS 10 on it, and that went hunky dory. I also got some other things in here. I got some brackets, a video card, and a processor. But unfortunately, I couldn't use the processor because you might be able to see that there's some bends and cracks in the circuit board. So it's absolutely dead to the world. This did come out of a school, so maybe some kids got to it or something. No idea. So the point is, the machine does work, and that's a good thing. So by the combined efforts of Kyle's Tech Channel and Grateful 42, we have a working Quicksilver G4 867. So let's get started and show off the machine a little bit, shall we? Now, the peripherals I've hooked up on this table here aren't exactly correct. The keyboard's too new. The mouse is, well, I never used Apple mice anyway because I don't like them, but having a right click is good. Of course, the Samsung monitor, well, you could have used that, I suppose. But this is from 2001. Everything's newer, so the peripheral setup isn't exactly perfect. It will be eventually. I have the right peripherals, except for the monitor, of course. So maybe one day we'll get that to look right. But for now, let's take a look at the machine itself. So, the Quicksilver G4. There were two versions of these. The first version was released in 2001, just after the original G4 machine, which was pretty much the same as the Power Mac G3, except that they stuck a G4 processor in that board. And I think it came in different colors. I remember seeing a graphite one quite a bit. This is the model just after that, and this is where I believe they changed the board a little bit and revised it. It has a 133 megahertz bus, so it takes PC 133. It has, this particular one has an 867 megahertz PowerPC G4 processor with the Velocity engine. This one has its stock video card of an NVIDIA, what is it? I think it's a GeForce 2 MX, 32 megs. In this box of stuff that I got from Kyle's Tech Channel, there was also some SD RAM in there, so I tried a few sticks in here, and I managed to get a gig out of that. So we have 1.12 gigs of RAM in this thing, which is pretty good considering what operating system this is running, and what operating systems it will be running in the future. So let's take a look at this. From the inside, this thing opens a bit like a car hood, which is kind of cool. Check this out. Here's the board. I took the battery out, as you do with these machines, so that they don't, you know, leak it everywhere. It does not have the airport card, as you can see, but it does have this, which I think is a modem card. It has 64-bit PCI slots, which is unusual. Pretty much everything in here I've left alone. It has an upgraded DVD burner in it. It's an iOmega DVD burner, which was fairly common at the time. I think the Pioneers were better drives, according to another friend of mine, but iOmega was a common upgrade kit, I think, for some of these. There's that hard drive that Kyle's Tech channel provided. Thanks, bro. It has an ACBell power supply in it, of course. Now, that's something we should touch on. The Quicksilvers are known to die because of these power supplies. This one, however, seems to still be working, so if this one ever goes, hopefully I can just open it up and, recap it or something, and then it'll just work again. What else we got here? Here's your 3 RAM slots, 2 of which are occupied by some 512 sticks, and there's like a 128 meg stick there. Came with a SCSI card in it. I'm not sure what kind of SCSI that is, whether it's, fast, wide, whatever that is. There's the video card. And this video card, I have another one on order, actually, to replace this, and we'll probably be making an update video on that when that happens, because this machine's going to get some upgrades. I was planning on that 933 megahertz processor to be an upgrade, but unfortunately, the kids got to it before I could use it for something. So it'll stay at its stock 867 for now, I think. What else we got here? So, yeah, I think there's not a whole lot else to show. Actually, I could explain the whole processor thing. What you have to do with these, removing the heatsink on these is a bit odd. You have to take this fan out from the back. It just unscrews. Then you get a flathead and you undo the clips that hold the heatsink on, and you take that off, and then you unscrew the processor with screws like that from the board. It's held in quite securely, which is pretty nice. Macs back in the early 2000s were built pretty darn well. So, pretty cool stuff. It's really, really held in there. So, professional. Bam. Now let's show you the back of the machine a little bit. What do you get for I/O here, eh? Well, there's the power supply, of course. Up here you have a modem, your 56K modem. You have a port for headphones, and you have a port for the a pair of speakers that used to come with these that used a proprietary connector. I believe that would power the speakers. You get gigabit Ethernet, 2 FireWire 400 ports, and 2 USB 1.1 ports. And of course you have your video card and SCSI ports down there. And yeah, pretty simple hardware for back in the day. For USB back in these days, you really needed a USB hub. I used to have one on my G4 Cube back in the day. I had a Belkin 4-port hub, and it was very much needed. That hub eventually died, though, unfortunately, as a lot of Belkin stuff has for me in the past. So, yeah, there you have it. So what have I done to this machine? Well, let's turn it on and take a look. And there you have it. She bongs. Now, what I've done to this machine is just to see if it was working properly. I stuck a copy of Tiger on here, and that's not what its final OS is going to be. I managed to track down some of the original media for this machine. You might remember in the iBook G3 video that I did, I got a bunch of the folders and the media with it. Well, I'm basically buying the equivalent of that for this Quicksilver here, which will allow me to install macOS 9 correctly. Unfortunately, my 921 retail disk that I have does not work. So, what I plan to do is get those CDs, hopefully sometime next week, and give this a try so that we can have a nice big OS 9 machine. I have a much bigger hard drive on the way as well, and a 64 meg video card. So I'll let you know what those are once we get to that point. But for now, let's take a look at the machine itself. As you can see, I've installed a few things on this computer: 10.4 Fox, CyberDuck, AbiWord, iLife 06, VLC, Handbrake, LibreOffice, Carbon Copy Cloner, the original Halo, and everything seems to work. Oh yeah, I also have Mac Capture as well, and it seems to work great. Here's your sticker of the machine. I have OS 10 4.11 on here. Tiger is all I plan to run on this computer because Leopard is... Leopard runs just like garbage on stuff that's not a dual core in my experience. Tiger, though, is extremely quick. Like, that opens instantly. Hopefully the newer hard drive is faster. Well, here you go. Here's some more information about the Quicksilver. It's a Power Mac 3,5, 867 megahertz, 256K of L2 cache, and 2 megs of L3 cache. 133 megahertz bus. ATA. The stock hard drive in it, or not the stock hard drive, but the one I put in it, just because I happen to have it, is a nice 40 gig Seagate. It still works just fine. And here's the odd DVD drive that was in here, an iOmega. It also has a beige tray, if you can believe it. Look at that. It is a beige drive, as it would have been from the early 2000s. I don't know if that was an upgrade kit or if that was stock. I think the Pioneers were factory and the iOmegas were probably an upgrade kit of some kind. But I actually burned a CD with it. I actually burned a CD with this drive not too long ago, and it worked fine, so the drive is good. The audio in this machine is one of those legendary Texas Instruments chips that were in so many Macs during this time period. These have very, very good DACs on them, so it makes sound excellent. Apple really knew what they were doing in terms of selecting good hardware back in the PowerPC days. No Bluetooth in this machine, obviously, because there's no airport or anything like that. Disk burning. Burn support, yes, unsupported. Isn't that a bit weird? So this is the type of things it can burn. It looks like it cannot burn plus DVD. Oh, it can burn DVD plus Rs and RWs. That's good. So it's a fairly new drive, I would say. Supports session at once and disk at once. Yeah. I would say that because this is an upgrade kit, iDVD probably won't work. That was the one limitation that you had when upgrading the drives in some of these old Macs, is that iDVD would not work. But honestly, I don't care anymore. I'm not going to, if I'm going to export stuff on this computer, it's not going to be to a DVD. It's going to be to a file that I put somewhere else. So that doesn't really bother me at all. 400, it's FireWire 400, of course. The graphics is it's an NVIDIA GeForce 2 MX, 32 megs of RAM, and the card works beautifully, although it's very, very limited, especially for the games that I want to run on here, like Halo. I had to turn the settings all the way down and run it at 640 by 480 for it not to lag, so that's why I went ahead and ordered a 64 meg video card for this machine. So hopefully that will improve things. There you go, here's what's in the RAM slots, as you can visually see. One of them is a PC100 stick, it looks like. But that's fine, as long as it works. It doesn't really bother me. PCI cards. This is an Adaptec SCSI card, which will be useful because, you know, SCSI drives are a thing. No airport cards, none of that. So that's an overview of the hardware of the system. Now, what have I got this thing to do? Well, typical vintage Mac things. I managed to connect it to one of my servers to download some files for this machine. So I put some music on here, put some movies on here to see what it was capable of. It does not play HD video very well, and I think that's because of the 32 meg video card. I've installed Office Suites, as you saw earlier, and a few games. I haven't done a whole lot to this machine yet, just because this is not going to be the final installation. But 10.4 Fox is on here, so I can browse the internet with the machine, which is quite slow these days. It's even taking a while for it to open, but yeah. There it goes. There's 10.4 Fox. So I could go to some place like Google and it would work. It's a little slow though, as you'll see. I can assure you that about 15 years ago or whatever, that browsers weren't this slow. At least in 2005, browsers were never this slow for me. Yeah, that's pretty bad. But you know what? It's up to date and it works. And yeah. CyberDuck I use for SFTP access to my servers. Let's open up AbiWord. Managed to find old versions of AbiWord and LibreOffice and stuff like that, so I can type words. Hooray, words. AbiWord's a good program. I first found out about it way back when in my beginning days of using Linux, which was probably around this time, actually, 2005, 2006. Of course, I have iMovie on here. You cannot have an old Mac without having iMovie 06. Or iMovie HD, as they call it. GarageBand, of course, so that you can make silly loops and silly songs. I'd like to put, once I get the bigger hard drive, I'd like to put a copy of Logic on this computer. That would be kind of neat. VLC, of course, for playing your videos. Now, the version, I had to find a special version that works on OS X Tiger. Now, what version is that? It's version 9.5, PowerPC build, and that was released in 2008. So at this point, this is a 10-year-old version of VLC, but it does work. And of course, there is Handbrake, which, believe it or not, has a copy that works on PowerPC, which I think is really cool. That means I could convert video with this machine if I really had to. So that's really cool. You can tell how old this version is if you look at the presets. PSP, PS3, Apple TV, iPod, iPhone, iPod Touch, all that stuff. So, yeah. What else we got here? LibreOffice. So this computer is capable of now doing quite the gamut of Office documents. It's a little slow, though, as you can see. It works. It gets there eventually. I'm getting the beach ball of death here. LibreOffice was never the fastest on these old computers. It's pretty quick now, though. There we go. Now we can write our essay for school, which is what I used to do in LibreOffice a lot. I also found a copy of Carbon Copy Cloner, which will allow me to do image backup of this computer, which I'd really like to do. Once I get either a FireWire enclosure, or I can just use another Mac via AFP, I can just make an image of the machine. So I could select Macintosh HD here, and then new disk image, and I would literally have an image backup of my computer. So that's useful for you old Mac guys out there. You can literally do image backup of your computer with that. Now, for the next one, we need to put a CD in. I actually had to burn the Halo CD because I don't have the patches to give it the no. I don't have the no CD patch for Halo yet, so I just burned a CD of the game. Stuck it in the machine so that we can play it. There we go, and the CD shows up. So, let's start Halo and show you how this runs. I have to run this at 640 by 480. I'll show you the settings I have to have this at. This is how I used to run Halo on my iMac G4 back in the day, because it also had, I don't know if it was a GeForce 2 MX or what video card was in it, but it had a 32 meg video card either way, and you could turn none of the shaders, I'd turn none of the shaders on, turn everything on low, no FSAA at all, nothing, and just play it that way. But it did work, and I was able to play online and go on all the stunt servers that I wanted. Stunts only, go red! Remember that? I do. Man, that brings back memories. The Bungie logo, of course. Gearbox. And Microsoft Game Studios, if you can believe it, had something to do with the Mac release of this game. And there you go. Halo has started. Now here's how the video is set up. I have it at 640 by 480 with VSync on. And I have texture quality I should probably put on low. I think I was able to get away with that being on medium. And it was okay, so let's just leave it that way. Now, unfortunately, you can't play online anymore because GameSpy is gone. So I don't know if there are patches for the Mac version to let you play it online again or what. I think there are for the Windows version. I'm not sure about the Mac version. So let's go on one of my favorite maps from this game, Sidewinder, and play a little bit. Slayer. Alright. Let's get in a ghost and do our thing. It's a bit hard to play with one hand, but let's drive around and show you the frame rate at least a little bit. It's pretty smooth, I would say. Once you turn the settings all the way down, it's pretty smooth, but look at the detail. Look at the lack of detail on that tree there. It looks terrible because I have it all turned down to nothing. This is how I used to play Halo back in the day, with the graphics and stuff all the way down, just because I wanted the game to run. I didn't care what it looked like, because all I had back then was a bunch of Macs, and I just wanted this stuff to run. Now, I played Halo on the Mac more like in 2003 and 2004, I would say. I played the crap out of it, and it was very fun. And the fun part about the Mac and the Windows version of Halo was rockets on the back of a Warthog. Whee! Whee! Whoops. But yeah, that's Halo for this thing. The other game I'd like to get on here is Unreal Tournament 2004. That was a very fun game, and that should also run on the 64 meg video card. But that's what I've done with this machine so far. I haven't done a whole lot yet, but I got a basic install up and running, and I found old software, downloads for old software to get things working. So once I get the original media for this, I think we're going to do an installation video. Just because it's an experience that you don't get to see too often on the internet. I mean, if you want to watch somebody install Windows 95, Windows 98, Windows 3.1, I see videos, plenty of videos of that, but I don't see a whole lot of the Mac stuff, especially from original media, so I think we're going to contribute to that and do it ourselves once I get the parts for this machine in, which is the hard drive, the video card, and the original media. So once we get that up and running, we're definitely going to tackle a really nice install dual boot of macOS 9.22 and 10.4.11, just like we have here now, except for the macOS 9 part. So this is a bit more of an introduction to this machine, to show you what it's capable of to begin with, especially the Halo example there. I this machine is capable of more. I'm not sure if I want to upgrade the CPU yet, or if that's worth the money or not. Probably not. 867 should run everything that I want to run. That's fast enough. It's not a 500 megahertz machine or anything like that. So I think this will be fine for my needs in particular. It seems to run the games just fine without getting CPU bound or anything like that. So hopefully I can get some more games for this and have more to show you for the next video of this machine. But I just wanted to introduce you to this machine. It's a very, very nice computer. Hopefully the power supply stays working. It's not a wind tunnel at all, like some people say some of these machines are. So, yeah, there you have it. I think part of the reason that this machine still works well is because it was not owned by a school. This machine was owned by a family, and I believe the dad used it for like photography or something, or desktop publishing or something like that. It wasn't used very hard. It was used like a family PC normally would have been, plus some stuff for, work that involved, manipulating images and whatnot. So I would say that this machine probably hasn't been, doesn't have a whole ton of hours on it, but, and for that I'm thankful because it works well. However, it did sit in the basement for quite a number of years, so it's a little dirty and beat up. This machine was really disgusting when I was working on it. I had to vacuum it out and wipe it with a microfiber cloth and all that kind of stuff. So it was pretty nasty. But the machine is in a working state now, and I'm looking forward to having this as a good Mac to use to demonstrate software. I was going to use a different one for that, but I think this machine is actually going to be very, very good for it. Mostly because I can hook up a nice big monitor to it and all that kind of stuff. And that means that I can use a program called Mac Capture to capture the screen too. Assuming that doesn't have a terrible frame rate. I remember it having kind of a terrible frame rate, so we'll see what happens. It's no OBS, I'll tell you that. So there you go. That's an introduction to the Quicksilver. We'll be doing more of this in the future. I just thought I'd check in with you guys since it's been about a month since I uploaded anything. So hopefully we'll get back to making videos on a regular basis and my life won't be so hectic. So, yeah. Thanks for watching, everybody. More to come on this Quicksilver. If you'd like to check out Patreon or Discord, Facebook or Twitter, they are all in the description of this video. Have a good one, everybody. Ciao.